Namo Buddhaya. Have you seen those people who are walking on slack lines or cables? They do these amazing stunts on these cables. Now, you may think that it is an easy task to do. No, it is the most difficult thing to be balanced on that cable. It is very easy to fall into either sides. Same goes with our life. It's the most difficult thing for us to be balanced, to balance our inner self and the outer self, right? So from this video, I would like to talk with you about an important place, an important area of us to be balanced, right? This is the area of we helping others. I read this wonderful quote. That is the reason that I wanted to make this video. I read this wonderful quote in a place that says, "To not lose yourself in the name of helping others." Right? That is amazing, right? For an example, let's say there is an empty jar or an empty vessel, right? Can you fill other cups with this empty jar? No, you can't. If you need to fill other cups, then you need to fill the jar first. In the same way, the Buddha says that you need to fill yourself, you need to take care of yourself, right? You need to improve yourself in order to help others, right? But it is very easy for us to be it in an extreme. Let's say if you're someone who is committing the fullest in yourself on the happiness of others, on the benefit of others, on the betterment of others, right? If you are a parent, if you are someone, if you in your relationships, let's say you are committing your fullest self to maintain this relationship and to help others and to make others happy, right? This can be an extreme. This can go to an extreme where you lose your character, you lose your identity, and you lose who you are in the name of helping that person, right? From the other person's perspective, it is a good thing to do. It's a great help for that person. But when you too much helping others without taking care of yourself, when you forget to take care of yourself, there are certain downsides that occurs in your life. One of them being, the more you help without improving yourself, you reduce the quality of your help, right? You reduce the amount, the productivity of help that you're going to give to that person, right? Now, with the time when the quality reduces, that person is not getting what they got before. And they will complain, why you are not giving me, why you are not committing your fullest self for this? But in reality, you're doing it while losing who you are. Okay? So that is why the Buddha said it is really important to balance that, to be in balance when you help others. So the Buddha gave a wonderful simile or a metaphor to understand about this. Buddha said, be like a cow, a mother cow who has a baby calf. What do you mean by that? That means, the Buddha said, there are two jobs for a mother cow to do. One is that she should graze. She should first feed herself. Okay? She should eat grass and graze and feed herself. And also the other job is to take care of the baby calf. She should give milk to the baby calf, right? What if this mother cow forget one job? Okay, one of these jobs. Let's say the mother wanted to only to graze and feed herself and not take care of the baby. What happened? The baby calf will die eventually. What if the mother only gave milk, only be focused on giving milk to the baby calf? Then the baby calf will survive, but mother will die eventually, right? So in the same way, the Buddha said, for monks, as monks, we live and we are committed to a spiritual life, right? That is the sole purpose of entering a monkhood, to live a spiritual life, to be more focused on the spirituality. Now, when you do that, it doesn't mean you don't help others. You don't help and you don't work on others' happiness, right? But when you do that, okay, one part of our monkshood is to help other people with Dhamma, with Buddha's teachings, and helping with doing charity and doing helping them with emotionally, right? When you do that, there is this part, we forget our main idea. We forget our main goal, why we came to this monkhood. And our jobs going the other way. Okay, sometimes it's very easy for us to be engaged in charity, to help other people and be there for other people when they need. But when you do that, sometimes we forget to improve ourselves. So the Buddha said, it is the monk's duty to maintain this balance in the spiritual life while doing all the works and the chores and the duties in the monastery, right? While helping other monks and helping to the monastery, he must take care of his spiritual practice as well. He must be balanced in that as well. So to do that, you have to be like a mother cow who is feeding her baby and taking care of her as well. So keep it in your mind that yes, you need to help other people. It is very good to help other people. And if you need to give your fullest self, if you need to make others happy, in that will make you happy, what you have to do? First, we need to improve ourselves. Okay? So that is why it is really important to have some time during the day to take care of yourself. I like to call this me time. I have this me time every single day. No matter what duties that I have, I spend time for myself. Learning something, maybe practicing something to myself, to my benefit, so that I can help you people and people around the world in a more good way, in a greater way. Okay? So it is really important for all of us to balance this help to others and also help to ourselves. So I wish that you got some idea about this balance in life. So I wish may all of you be healthy, happy, and free from sufferings. Namo Buddhaya. The Buddha once said, "He who sits alone, lies down alone, walks alone, in diligent practice, and alone tames himself, should find delight in living in the forest." Living alone, being alone, can be scary for many people these days. Oftenly, our society portrays a successful life, a happier life, a good life, as a life where it is surrounded by people, surrounded by things. But there's a reason why almost all the spiritual practices, almost all the spiritual pathways praise and promote this living alone, life in the place of a solitude practice, a solitude life. And that is why almost all the religious leaders had to solitude themselves from these hassles and bustles of this society and go to these quiet places and find the liberation and find what they were looking for. Same went with the Supreme Buddha. Before he became the Buddha, he was a prince. He was living in a palace. He was indulging himself with this sensual pleasure. And then he understood, indulging in this sensual pleasure doesn't help me to find what I'm looking for. So what he did was he left the palace and he went from one forest to another, meditating, finding this peace, this ultimate peace, right? So living alone can be a blessing. It is a blessing when it is converted to a blessing, right? But living alone can be a curse as well for many people. That is why people most of the time they are scary. They're afraid of living alone, right? Most of the time people come to me and say, I'm lonely, I'm living alone, I'm living by myself, but I feel so much lonely, so much negative thoughts coming into my mind. What should I do? That is what happens when you turn this loneliness into a curse. Trust me, it all depends on how you think and how you use this time. I will tell you a story. Prince Siddhartha, the Buddha, left the palace and he went to a forest. Although he went to a forest, there were 5 monks who was waiting for him to come to the forest. There were 5 monks who were helping Prince Siddhartha, the Buddha, with the meditation before his awakening. And then these 5 monks had this idea that only way to find the liberation is by giving this tortures and doing these hard meditations, and harsh meditations and extreme meditations. So we call it Atta Kilamathan Yoga, which we can translate into English as self-mortification, right? Now, Prince Siddhartha left one extreme when he left the palace. That extreme is, the Buddha described this as the extreme of sensual pleasures, indulging in the sensual pleasures. That was one extreme. And then Prince Siddhartha came to the other extreme, where he practiced this self-mortification, giving these extreme and harsh meditations to the body. And then those 5 monks, they believed that this is the only way for the liberation. So Prince Siddhartha was practicing these meditations for 6 years. And finally he understood, this extreme, being in this extreme, doesn't help me either. So then he found the middle path, the middle way. And that is to live a spiritual life by balancing his material and spiritual life both, right? And that is why after that decision, he decided to take some food to his body. After a long time he had taken some food to his body, he grabbed his alms bowl and went on begging alms and find some food and had it. Now all those 5 monks had a lot of expectations on Prince Siddhartha. And then they saw this incident. And then they became disappointed. They said, oh, what a disappointment. We believed him. We had a lot of expectations on him. But look what now happened. He's taking food. Maybe soon he will go back to his palace and he will live a normal life again. So the best decision is to leave him. So what happened? All these 5 monks left Prince Siddhartha. And after this alms round, he came back to the forest, and he saw everyone had left. No one was there. Prince Siddhartha was alone. Then he found this perfect environment, perfect place to be focused more into himself. That was because he was all alone. Right? He got the opportunity to be by himself. Right? Focus more into himself. And one day, he sat under the Bodhi tree and he became awakened. He became enlightened. Right? So this solitude, when it is turned to, when it is used in the correct way, it can be a blessing for you. Right? And the same solitude can be turned into a curse as well. Right? Most of the people, they complain me about the loneliness. I always say to them, when you're lonely, your thought process generates a certain energy within you. Right? And that can be negative. Now let's say you are in this negative energy environment and a negative energy thought process. You all know in science we learn about, according to science, it says that energy cannot be produced or destroyed. Now you have your energy within you, but it is negative, right? Now you can't destroy this negative energy, right? What we are trying in this whole life is to destroy this negative energy. Well, we can't do that. The only thing that we can do is to convert this negative energy, drive this negative energy to something positive, right? So how can we drive this loneliness, this energy to something positive? One of the biggest reasons why people feel lonely is because they lack an aim, a goal to their life. If they have a goal and aim that they should work on, if they have a system that they should work on, then they don't feel that much lonely because they have something to do. They have something to engage with it. Right? So this can go either. People can have either material goals or spiritual goals, but everyone must have these spiritual goals within themselves, no matter what life they are coming from, right? Because finally, there will be a time in all of our lives that we come to this lonely place. One day we have to be by ourselves with no one else around us. Right? At that time, if we don't have any quality, any spiritual quality that we have practiced within us, we'll start feeling lonely again and again. And it will start to build up this negative energy within us. Okay? And sometimes we can be too late for that to make it correct. So the best thing is to learn how to convert this negative energy to something positive. Right? To do that, you have to have a goal and an aim for yourself, to yourself. Always ask from yourself, what should I do in my life? Who should I become in my life? What should I build up? What qualities should I work on in my life? If you found, we will always find some qualities that we should work on, right? Some mistakes that we have, some weaknesses within us. If we can work on those weaknesses and make it correct, that time will help you to be more successful, more productive, right? More happy and a more peaceful person. But to do that, what do you need? You need time, right? You need time to be focused on yourself. And what gives you the best time to be focused on yourself is the time when you are all alone, right? And that is why I always say for people, have a time during the day only for yourself, a separate time. Probably people call it me time. Okay, that's a good thing. Having a me time for yourself during the day is essential. Okay, so I would say as a practical thing, apply it to your life. That is to have a separate, at least 15 minutes. It's okay. No matter how much you spend the time, but if it is for yourself, that is helpful, right? At least spend a 15 minutes of time, right? Sitting down, being by yourself, all alone, right? Not with your mobile phones, not with your Netflix account, not with your movies or anything. Just be by yourself, right? And then learn how to be with your own thoughts, right? Then only we can be more focused to ourselves. Right? So I hope you got some idea about how to convert this loneliness into the solitude. So apply this little practice to your life and enjoy the solitude in your life. Namo Buddhaya. Buddhism is considered as the religion of meditation. But if you ask your Buddhist friend, do you meditate? They'll probably say, no, not that much. I don't meditate that much. So the real question is, do all Buddhists meditate? And should you meditate to become a Buddhist? Well, the first thing that we need to understand is that the word Buddhist means for someone who follows the Buddha's path, right? So to truly become a Buddhist, you need to follow the Buddha's advice and you need to follow the Buddha's path. At least you must try to do that, right? And just because you are born to a Buddhist family doesn't mean that you truly become a Buddhist. Okay? So then you may ask, should you meditate to become a Buddhist? Well, it depends on what you mean by meditation. If you portray the meditation as sitting in a quiet place, cross-legged, eyes closed, and concentrating, then it is not the only meditation. Meditation can be practiced while sitting down, while lying down, while walking, and while standing. So these all four postures we can practice the meditation. And also, you don't always need to close your eyes to meditate. Okay? So to become a Buddhist, not only meditation that we must practice, there are a lot of things that we need to include to our life. So according to the Buddha's advice, there are three main practices that we practice in Buddhism. If someone is practicing these three practices, then we can call him a Buddhist, right? So what are these three practices? The first practice is called Sila. Sila can be translated into English as virtues, right? So as Buddhists, we follow 5 virtues. Every Buddhist has to follow 5 virtues. So what are these 5 virtues? First one is abstaining from killing beings. Second one is abstaining from stealing. Third virtue is abstaining from sexual misconduct. Fourth one is abstaining from telling lies. And the fifth one is abstaining from taking intoxicants. So these are the 5 virtues that we follow. So this is the cornerstone, and this is the first step of Buddhist path, Buddhist practice, that is to be virtuous. So now you can understand, before meditating, you also need to be virtuous. Now, why we need to practice these virtues? A monk asked from the Buddha, what is the purpose of being virtuous? Or what is the purpose of practicing these virtues? Then the Buddha says, why you need to practice virtues is to stay away from regrets in your life. Okay? If you take a closer look at these 5 virtues, by doing the opposite of these 5 virtues, that means killing animals, stealing, doing sexual misconduct, and telling lies, and taking intoxicants, these actions can lead to regret in life, right? One's regret. And the Buddha showed that regret is one of the biggest obstacles for someone's peace in life. If your heart is complaining about the actions and the things that you did in the past, and the things that you are doing right now, if your heart is regretting about it and complaining about it, that is a bigger obstacle to find peace in one's life. So to stay away from that regret and that disturbance to your mind, to your peace, the Buddha says, be virtuous. Live a virtuous life that your heart doesn't complain you about your actions, right? Be disciplined. In a simpler way, to be self-disciplined is to practice the virtues. And then the second practice is called samadhi. Samadhi can be translated into English as tranquility. And now this includes this meditational practice, right? But also it doesn't only mean that it is only meditation. There are so many other things that we practice to tranquilize our mind. One part of it is meditation, right? You have to sit down, go to a quiet place, close your eyes and contemplate and try to focus your mind, and then little by little your mind will become tranquilized and calm and peaceful. And also by practicing the mindfulness, we can tranquilize our mind. And by doing good things like good karma, helping people, right? We can practice this tranquility of our mind. And also, the sila that we mentioned earlier will help you to achieve a tranquilized mind. So the Buddha says you must practice virtues, you must practice sila in a way that it helps the tranquility of your mind, right? That is the sole purpose of practicing the sila. And then the tranquility. Now this includes the meditational practice. And then there's the third practice that we do. This is called prajna. Prajna can be translated into English as wisdom, right? So the Buddha showed us that how to achieve wisdom in life. And what Buddha meant by wisdom is ability to understand the true nature of life, the true impermanent nature of one's life, right? To do that, you need one part of it, you need the meditation, and also one part of that, you need the wise reflection. The Buddha says how to achieve the wisdom. First, you must listen to the Buddha's advice and listen to the Dhamma, the Buddha's teachings well, right? You need to listen to it, and also you need to wisely reflect on it, right? Through wise considering and through wise reasoning, you must achieve this wisdom, right? So these are the 3 practices that we do to practice Buddhism, right? Every Buddhist must practice this, right? So the first part is, in the summary, the first part is you have to be virtuous, and also then you have to practice these meditational practices, and also you have to develop wisdom. So the sole purpose of those 2 practices, sila and samadhi, is to help developing the wisdom in life. So these are the 3 practices that we do to become Buddhist. And those who practice these 3 practices, they don't need to name themselves as Buddhists. They all are Buddhists. Okay, they all are Buddha's followers. Okay, so I hope you got some idea about this matter today. So wish to see you from another video. Take care. Namo Buddhaya. Why do bad things happen to good people? Sometimes you've asked this question from yourself. I'm a good person. I help everyone. I don't hurt anyone. I can see myself as a good person. But still, why all these bad things? Why all these painful things, sufferings happen to my life? Why life always keep testing me always? Well, these questions we've asked most of the times in our life, right? Do you know how Buddha saw this? In the night of his enlightenment, the first thing that he realized was that life is consist of suffering. Suffering is a part of everyone's life, right? So Buddha did not say suffering as a part of good people's life or a bad people's life. Buddha saw that suffering was universal, right? But when we face adversities in life, when we face these realities like painful situations in our life, we think that the only person who is going through this suffering, the only person that is going through this difficulty is only me. That is how everyone feels. Not to lie, sometimes I feel that. But what Buddha teaches us to see it as is to see the suffering as a universal thing. I'll tell you a story. A young mother lost her baby. But she loved her baby so much that she refused to accept her baby's death. What she did? She took her baby and ran from one village to another, one city to another, finding a doctor to cure her baby. But no one could bring a dead person back to life. Finally, she met the Buddha. The Buddha said, okay, I will cure your baby. But we need one medicine to do this. Can you bring it? Go and bring a handful of mustard from a family that no one has ever died. So the mother was so much happy. She thought that she could find this easily. So she ran to the village and went to the first house that she found and asked, do you have a handful of mustard that I can get? Then when the householder was about to give the handful of mustard, she said, has anyone died in your family? Then they said, oh, my uncle died last year. Then she said, I don't want your mustard. She went to the next house and she got the same answer. Someone had died. She went to the other one. She went from one house to another and she went through the whole village. The only word that she heard was, someone died. Death. Then she understood, okay, death is not only for me. Death was something that I always heard in this journey. Maybe my child is dead. So she made her heart strong enough to accept her baby's death. She went back to the monastery to meet the Buddha and thanked the Buddha for curing not the baby, but her heart. What Buddha teaches us to see about life is that to see the suffering as universal. So next time when you go through a difficulty in your life, and the next time when you go through a hardship, painful feeling in life, understand that you are not all alone. There are so many people who is going through in life this in the same situation, the suffering. Okay? Most of the time, we try to remove the suffering from life. We always wish that this suffering was not there in our life. Right? We go to sleep thinking that next day morning when we wake up, all these things will be a dream. All these problems will disappear. But the reality is, when there is suffering in life, there is suffering. So that the first thing that we need to do is that accept that there is suffering in life. So the whole point of realizing the first noble truth in Buddhism is to accept the suffering as it is, to see the suffering as it is. Only when you accept the suffering, we can cure it. We can find a remedy for it. First of all, you need to accept that there is pain and suffering in all of our lives, right? And then we can choose what to do with it. Most of the time, we spend a lot of time worrying about changing what we can't change, right? But it all depends on how you choose to react to these experiences in life. Most of the time, these painful feelings, sufferings that comes to our life are blessings in disguise, right? If we did not get difficult situations, if we did not get hardships to our life, right, challenges in our life, how can we develop a strong mindset, right? There's a saying that if you need to learn how to swim, what do you have to do? You have to jump to the pool. Somehow, you have to experience how drowning feels like. Only then you can realize that, what should I do to learn how to swim, right? In the same way, there is no use of trying to avoid wishing and praying that suffering was not there in life, right? There's no point of wishing and praying that, please don't give me suffering. Always wish a mindset that you can face strongly to all these sufferings and painful situations in life. Whenever you get a strong mind to face any kind of challenge in your life, then you can be happy and in peace, because you're ready for anything in your life, right? So always wish a strong mindset that you can face any challenge, any difficult situation in life. So remember that not only bad things happen to good people, good things also happen to good people. And also, sometimes you may think, why all those good things happen to bad people, right? It is not always the case. Good things happen to bad people, and also bad thing happens to good people. That is the law of this world. So we all need to develop the mindset to see the suffering as a common truth to everyone, not a personal thing. So I wish you all, may all of you be able to develop a strong mindset to face any challenge in all of your life. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Buddhaya. We all know that letting go of the anger, letting go of the resentment is not as easy as we think, right? People might say to us, let it go, forget about it, don't think about it, and what had happened, happened. But the person who is in that situation, person who is really dealing with that person or that problem, only knows how difficult it is and how painful it is to experience that. But here's the thing. If we need to be at peace, if we need to make peace with ourselves, we need to learn a way of thinking and a way of dealing with these kind of people and these kind of situations. And that is why I need to introduce you to a way of thinking that Buddha taught us to do, to deal with such people and to deal with such situations, right? The reason why I needed to make this video is that the other day I was reading this sutra and I came across this one part of this sutra, which is I find really inspiring and really valuable advice from the Buddha. So first of all, let's take a look at what Buddha has to say about this. The Buddha says, one may apply to that person the fact of ownership of karma. Let's name this way of thinking as the ownership of karma. The Buddha says, this worthy person is the owner of his actions, the heir to his actions. His actions are the womb from which he has sprung, his relations and his protection. Whatever he does, good or bad, he will be heir to that. To remove the grudge or remove the resentment of someone, the Buddha advises us to look at their karma. Now, what do you mean by karma? Karma is the action, karma is the intentional actions that we do from our body, from our speech, and from our mind, right? Now, with these intentions, we create sort of consequences. The other part of the karma is called consequences of karma, which we call in Pali vipaka, right? So with this karma, there's one part called the vipaka. That means the consequences of karma, right? So the Buddha says, whatever the karma you do with intentions, whatever the intentional actions that you do, it generates its own consequences, right? So the Buddha says that if someone does actions with his body, speech, and his mind with an impure intention or impure mind, the suffering follows that person like a cartwheel follows the ox, right? So in that case, let's say if someone is hurting you, right? If someone is hurting you and hurting your emotions, so that person is doing that intentionally, right? With that intention, he generates karma. Now, if you consider about that intention, you can clearly say that intention is not pure. It is an impure intention. So with impure intention, what generates? Impure karma. And when one generates impure karma, the suffering follows that person. So when you look at someone who is hurting you, you can think, okay, whatever they do, right now they're doing an unwholesome action, so they're going to go through the consequences of that action. And whatever I do, right, how I react to that situation, how I react to their expressions and their way of behaviors is my karma. Now, do I need to get intervened with their unwholesome actions? Do I need to collect such unwholesome actions to my life, such unwholesome karma to my life? Then you can tell to yourself, I clearly don't want that to happen to myself because I care for myself and I love myself. When you think about that, it's a great way of thinking about such people, right? So whenever you come across with a difficult customer, a rude customer, what do you have to do? Okay, you have to think, whatever the karma that they are going to collect is their own karma. And how I respond to that karma is my karma. So I choose to respond to this situation with kindness, compassion, and patience. And maturity. Most importantly, maturity is really crucial when you are dealing with such people. Okay, I always say to people that when someone is angry with you, when someone is yelling at you, be the bigger person. That means be someone who is bigger than that person's qualities, right? Be someone who has bigger patience than that person. So when you face such situations with patience and maturity, you can deal with such people in the correct way, and also you can let go of that anger and resentment with time, right? I know most of the time you will not be able to do this as quick as you want, right? Although you may need to let go of the anger quickly, it won't happen. But it's okay. Take a good time to let go of the anger by thinking like this, right? So let's say you are going through a difficult situation and someone is angry with you and you are angry with them, right? You hold on to this grudge and resentment in your mind. Then what happens to you? The more you hold on to it, who is the person who is going to get hurt? You're the person who is going to get hurt, right? Because there's a nice saying that says, it's a Buddhist saying that says that if you're angry with someone, right? If you're holding and you're hating someone, it's like holding a hot coal, right? Or red hot iron ball in your hand and you're trying to throw it at another person to hurt that person. If you take a red hot iron ball to throw it to a person, who is the first person is getting hurt? You're the one who is getting hurt first, right? So in the same way, if you hold on to the anger, if you hold on to the resentment about someone, the first person who is going to get hurt is you. So when you understand this, and when you understand that self-care, self-love, self-compassion is important to heal, then you can let go of that anger. So this is the way to think about the person. Think in the perspective of karma, right? Whatever they do, it is their karma, and how I respond to that is my karma. So I choose to collect. I choose to collect a good karma to my life by responding to that situation with patience and maturity. So I hope this idea will help you to deal with such people in the correct way. And I wish you all, may you be healthy and may you be happy. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Buddhaya. Welcome and welcome back to another video. From today's video, we are going to answer one of the most frequently asked questions in Buddhism. Can we change our karma? Or can we change our past karma? Can we do anything about it? Now, to understand about this, first we need to understand what karma is. Now, in almost all the Indian religions, there are a lot of teachings about karma. Karma is a bigger teaching in almost all the Indian religions. In Hinduism, in Jainism, in Buddhism, there are a lot of teachings about karma. But the Buddhist approach of karma, or the Buddhist way of definition of karma, is slightly different than the other Indian religions, right? So this is how Buddha defined the karma. The Buddha says, Chetanahang bhikkhave kamang vadami. Monks, I say, intention is the karma. So when it comes to these statements from the Buddha means, what Buddha means is that karma, the action, is more of a mind-related thing. That is why the Buddha says intention is karma. So intentions are generated in our mind. So what Buddha saw is that it is not just the action, it is the intention behind the action what defines the karma. So this is the Buddhist definition of karma. Now we'll come to the question. What is it? Can we change the karma? Right? Now, first of all, we need to correct the question and then answer it. Why? Because karma, what people mean by asking, can we change karma, is that can I change what I have done in the past, and can I change the consequences of those karma? Okay? So first we need to understand that karma, or this intention, is generated right now, right here. Right? The karma is not something that is past. Karma is something that you do right now, this present moment. Right? So this present moment, the karma can be changed. Why? Because it is always your choice. The choice is a karma. Your choice is totally under your control. Some people think that, okay, our choices and our experiences are not totally under our control. The choices that we make are predetermined, or due to the past karma, we make choices right now. But Buddha did not agree to this idea. What Buddha says is, yes, your life is affected by the past karma, but it is not the only thing that your life is affected. But you can change your karma by making good choices, by taking the right action. That is why Buddha praised a lot about the taking right action. So understand that karma happens right now, and that means the karma is totally under your control. But what people ask is that, can I change the karma? No. First you need to correct the question, can we change the consequences of our karma? Which means vipaka. Now, with the package of karma, there comes another word which is not much famous, and that is vipaka. Vipaka means the consequences of karma. So basically what karma is, the cause and effect phenomena. That means we make causes for something and there will be an effect because of that cause. We do some actions and then we get consequences of those actions. So this is the basic understanding of karma. So can we change vipaka? It is not totally under our control. We don't know what we have done in the past. So the only thing that we can do is just to go through those experiences. Now, it is also important to remember that our life is not totally dependent on karma. Karma is only one thing that our life is affected. Okay? So let's say you're going through a consequence of your past karma. So can you do anything about that? You can't do it, because only thing that you can do is you have to face that experience. But you can change how you react to that experience, right? Whether it is good or bad, you can take right action, right choice, right now, right here, to face that in a good way. So if we take the right action and right choice right here, then we can stop the karma repeating again and again. Right? Let's say you're going through a bad experience due to a past karma, and if you react the same way, right? If you fall down, if you become angry, if you spread hate because of that pain and suffering, then you create some more suffering karma to go through some bad experiences in the future. But if you take right action and if you become wise and patient and mindful, then you can stop the karma from repeating. So in that way, you take control of your choices. So understand, basically, there is very few space for us to take control of what we have done in the past and the consequences of them, but we totally have the control that we make the choice right now, right here. So keep this beautiful advice from the Buddha in your heart and be happy. Namo Buddhaya. One day, a wild bull was walking down a street, and he saw this beautiful paddy field. And the bull was thinking, wow, what a beautiful paddy field. I need to eat some paddy. So what he did was, he jumped to the paddy field and started eating paddy. But there was this farmer who was so mindful, watching the paddy field, and he saw the bull was eating paddy. So what the farmer did, he ran across the paddy field and grabbed the bull from its horns and wrapped the muzzle around the horns and gave a huge blow to the bull. What happened to the bull? The bull was confused. So the bull ran away. But the nature of the bull is that he forgets everything very quickly. And the next day, what happened? The bull was walking down the same street and saw the paddy field, jumped to the paddy field and started eating paddy again. But there was this mindful farmer who was watching the paddy field. He gave a sound beating on that day as well. So this happened for a little while. But there came one day that the bull was thinking, okay, today I don't want to jump into the paddy field. Why? Because I always get beaten up by this guy. So on that day, the bull didn't jump to the paddy field. On that day, the bull was very disciplined when he was near the paddy field. He went and he passed the paddy field without jumping towards it. So the Buddha used this wonderful story and metaphor to give us a beautiful message. The Buddha says, this is the nature of our mind. It's like a wild bull. Forgets everything, runs towards these evil thoughts, and it has no discipline. So the Buddha says how we should discipline, like that mindful farmer. We have to be mindful and watch our thoughts and take control over it. How to take control over our thoughts? So Buddha give us a beautiful way to do that. The Buddha says, whenever your mind runs towards these evil thoughts, what you have to think? You have to think the downside of all these evil thoughts. For an example, if you have hatred in your mind, you have to think, this is not good for myself. This is not good for my physical health. This is not good for my mental health. And this is not good for me as well as others. My hate is not good for me and as well as others. In that way, by considering the downside and the danger of your thoughts, you can stay away from evil thoughts, and also you can discipline your thoughts. But to do every kind of these things, any of these things, we have to have one beautiful quality, and that is the mindfulness. So the Buddha says, watch your mind like a farmer who's watching the paddy field, right? So without mindfulness, we cannot do any kind of these things. We cannot discipline our mind. We cannot take our mind from unwholesomeness to wholesomeness. So we need to have this beautiful quality of mindfulness. And also we need to consider the danger of our thoughts, because one thought can create a beautiful world, and just one thought can destroy this whole world. That is the power of our mind. So understand that the nature of all of our minds are like a wild bull. So many people complain when they start meditating, they say, oh, my mind is not disciplined. It's always busy. It's running here and there. I'm very scattered brained. Well, at the beginning, we all are like that. When we start meditation, our minds start to run here and there. Only when we start meditating, we realize that how busy our minds are, how scattered our minds are. So what we have to do, whenever our mind gets distracted or disturbed or running into these kind of evil thoughts, we have to kindly bring it back to the wholesomeness. You may have to do this again and again. You may have to do it for years, but there will be a day, definitely, there will be a day that your mind becomes disciplined, but only if you keep doing this, right? It's all about the little steps that you take to discipline your mind every single day. And every practice adds up to your life. That is the wonder of this beautiful Buddhist path. Every practice that Buddha teaches us adds up, and it always helps to us. So, I know, and we all know, that it is not easy to discipline our mind. But even though it is difficult, it is not easy, it is painful, we have to do it again and again, keep doing it until that beautiful day comes, that we gain a beautiful, disciplined mind. So keep practicing, disciplining our mind, and be happy. Namo Buddhaya. One of the questions that people ask from me is that they ask, is it easy being a monk? Well, I give them the answer, no, it's not easy, right? So many people think that after becoming a monk, all the problems will disappear like you're floating on a peaceful cloud, Trust me, it doesn't happen, right? Monk's life is difficult, as same as any other life, right? It is not easy, because if you look at our life, right, where no matter what the life is, right, no matter what level of life is, there will always be difficulties, problems, challenges. That is the nature of life. That is what the Buddha said to us. The Buddha said that is the first noble truth. What is it? Dukkha. Where there is birth, there is dukkha. There is this unsatisfied nature. There is this suffering. There is this nature of unsatisfaction, dissatisfaction. So you may think, if you're thinking that after becoming a monk, all the problems will disappear. It's not, it doesn't happen, right? But here's the thing. Yes, there is some part of the problems that you face as a householder. After becoming a monk, they will disappear, right? That is made from this lifestyle itself, right? For an example, as a householder, you have to maintain a family life, right? A family. So that part is not there in the monk's life. And as a householder, you have to have these relationships. You have to have your husband or wife, children. As a monk, you don't have them, right? And also, then as a householder, you will get invited to a lot of occasions, parties, weddings, and all the stuff. As monks, we don't go to the weddings and parties, right? So we live in the monastery. So those kind of problems, those kind of things, they will be removed by the lifestyle itself. But that doesn't mean the lifestyle becomes this monk's life is easier. Because we also have some other duties to do, right? We have also other responsibilities to do. After doing all of those things, there are the things that are easier to do actually. At the end of the day, after becoming a monk, what you're really focusing on is your spirituality, your mind. A monk is someone who is totally dedicated to the spiritual practice. His own spiritual practice and also the spirituality and the spiritual development of the people around him. So when you work on that, right, you will face a lot of difficulties, a lot of challenges, One of the biggest challenges that we face as monks is to discipline our mind, right? As soon as you become a monk, your mind is not ready to become a monk, okay? I always say this for people, that it takes very few minutes to make a monk physically, like become a monk physically. But it takes a lifelong practice to become a monk within, from the mind. Okay? So we are on the path of making our mind a monk. Okay? So understand that becoming a monk is not easy. Okay? Same as any other life. They will have problems. They will have difficulties. Right? And also, I would like to say, yes, monk's life is difficult, but monk's life is beautiful. Why do I say difficult? Because there are some difficulties, challenges that you face as any other life. That is one part. Okay? And why would I say that monk's life is beautiful is that the lifestyle is made your life to be so much simple. For an example, we don't have much clothes, right? We only have 3 robes to wear, and also we don't have many things that as materials. For an example, we have only 3 robes, and we have only 1 alms bowl, and also a couple of books that we are using, and all the other utensils that we use in the monastery are they are for the monastery. Right? When we leave the monastery, we have to leave them behind and you have to go. The only thing that remains with you that you consider as yours, your materials, is your 3 robes and some couple of books and also your alms bowl. That is the only thing that is remain. So the lifestyle is made to make your life so much simpler. Okay? And the practices that we do, the monastic practices that we do, is made to make your life so much simpler and easier. And the precepts that we follow, that was given by the Buddha, the codes that we follow, is made to make the monk's life so much simpler, hassle-free, and more focused into the spirituality. So yes, there is one part of the beautiful part of the monk's life. Okay, that is beautiful. And the other part that I love to enjoy in monk's life is that being a monk, you get the opportunity to meet so many people, right? Being a preaching monk, I get this opportunity. I'm very lucky to have this in my life. I get to meet a lot of people. I get to meet a lot of people, and I get to talk with them, right? I can listen to their ideas. I can listen to their problems. I can share the Buddha's teachings with them and help them. And when I share the Buddha's teachings with them and when they get the help, it gives me a great happiness, right? So that part I love to enjoy, okay? And also another beautiful thing that you find in monk's life is that every single morning when you wake up, you have something wholesome to do, something that is selfless to do, right? When you wake up and when you clean your monastery, when you do the monastic chores, it gives you that idea that yes, you're doing something for yourself as well as the others also. So these are the parts that we enjoy as monks, okay? And also one part, this is not only separated for monks' life, but also anyone can do that. We enjoy by listening and learning the Buddha's teachings. Okay, you get a lot of time to learn the Buddha's teachings and observe and analyze the Buddha's teachings and practice the Buddha's teachings. So these are the beautiful parts of the monk's life. So don't think that monk's life is easy and hassle-free and problemless. No, as any other life, we also have problems, but we are working through them, right? We are practicing our mind to make our mind strong enough to face these problems, face these challenges through the Buddha's teachings. So I hope you got some idea about monk's life. So I wish you, may you be happy and may you be healthy. Namo Buddhaya.